I'm Dana Han-Klein here with Sean Baker for the Florida Project.
I'd love to know how you got involved in the project.
Sure. My co-screenwriter, Chris Bergash, brought this world to my attention. The fact that there were children with families living in budget motels outside of the place that we consider the happiest place on earth, outside of the tourist capital of the world, Orlando, Florida. His mother had relocated to the Kissimmee, Orlando area, so he was visiting her often and sending me photos of Route 192 and children playing in the parking lots there that were obviously not tourists, they were residents. And then there were news articles written about this juxtaposition of these kids living outside of the happiest place on earth for kids. So we wanted to actually make this film way back, like 2011, before Tangerine. I had also always wanted to make a film about children. I've been very influenced and inspired by the Little Rascals my entire career. That's not a joke. Every one of my films has like a wink to the Little Rascals, and this one is a full-out tribute, because if you think about it, the Little Rascals were these comic shorts set against the Great Depression, and most of the characters in the Little Rascals were actually living in poverty, but the focus was kids being kids, the joy of childhood, the humor of their mischievous adventures. And so I thought, this might be the opportunity to do sort of a present day Little Rascals, because the children were in these difficult circumstances because of the recession of '08. So we have our own economic turmoil going on right now. And I thought this might be a nice way of, or a way of putting a human face on the stigma of people living in these motels.
Some of your films, this one especially deals with people who are, you could consider them on like the fringes of society.
Right.
And how do you kind of prevent it from becoming a caricature? Because you want to make sure that you're not offending the people who are there.
That's my number one goal. I'm usually from outside of the worlds that I'm focusing on. At least I have been for the last 4 films, and our approach, we have to be very careful, because representation is everything, and proper representation is everything. We have to do it in a very respectful and responsible way, and it requires time. It requires spending time in the community, collaboration, getting people from the community to sign off, an approval process in a way. And getting to the point where we feel that we are comfortable enough to be able to write a fictionalized screenplay based on all of the details, the facts, the stories, the characters that we've met. So it takes time. To answer your question, it takes time.
What would you say like approval looks like? Like what does that look like
Sometimes,
to you?
In the case of the last 2 films, we actually passed our treatments by the residents to see what they thought. We would pitch the entire stories to agencies in the area that were working, providing social services to the homeless families. So it was about getting, and then even in the moment while we're shooting, asking people from the community, is this realistic? Does this go down this way? Are we using the right terminology? Because there's a lot of slang sometimes, localized slang, that's very important. It's really about collaboration.
Can you think of any points that dramatically changed because of that feedback loop?
Yeah, slang. There were certain scenes, for example, in the very beginning, we wrote, our dialogue was basically kids doing these kids were screaming, like they were very general offensive words that they were throwing out. We wanted to get localized. We wanted to get specific and modern with our slang. So it was really about asking, what this is a very general, derogatory word here. Can we come up with something that's really Florida? And we would get that stuff, and that would happen in the moment sometimes, where somebody would say, "No, that's not real," but that is. Have them do this. Don't have them do that.
Is it fair to say that you use your scripts more as a blueprint, right?
In a general way, it's using this thing that can change at any time. because my co-screenwriter Chris is actually on set with me, and we're rewriting, especially at nights. We're rewriting based on the stuff that we find has been themes that are rising to the surface, or character arcs that we're finding more interesting. In terms of dialogue, we do write the dialogue out there for the most part. I mean, there were about 5 or 6 scenes in this film in which we had a paragraph that described it in a way where, oh, we're going to approach the scene like this. It's more of a docu-style scene here, and we're actually using documentary-style techniques to actually capture the footage. That's one thing. But there's also, as you know, it is plot-driven. There is exposition. We have to get certain lines out, and actors have to memorize these lines. I always encourage improvisation on set, though, so they're allowed to loosen it up. They're allowed to be free. But then you're working with children. Children, I learned the hard way, have to at least come in there having all their memorized lines. Then, if you get somebody who's as talented as this Brooklynn Prince, they can start going free on set. But they have to come prepared. You can't just show up in the day and say, we're talking about, these themes and riff. No, that doesn't work. And my acting coach, Samantha Kwan, told me this very early on. She was like, kids are different. And she's taught kids, and she knows that kids have to be really handheld through things. And then again, because I was working with these really talented kids who are almost prodigies, they were prodigies, they were able to always make it their own if I asked them to.
Funny, I got the advice in school, never work with children or animals, and you completely, proved that wrong.
Well, yeah, I've worked with, I've done that a lot in my career, where I've worked with animals and even toddlers. But this was the first time I was working with 6 and 7-year-olds, and yeah, it was quite a learning experience. Blocking is even different. You can't just tell them, walk in the room, walk across the room, spin, deliver your line. You literally have to walk them through it. You have to stand there and hold their hand and be like, walk this way, boom, 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 I turn. You have to show them it physically. It's really it was a real learning experience for me.
So not only are you working with children, you're also working with non-actors and actors. So what considerations do you have to take in sort of merging the two, or is it?
I say first-timers. I don't say non-actors because,
sure.
Yeah, because actually, to tell you the truth, a lot of Bria Vinai, who played Halley in the film, yes, she was not an actor, but we put her through a boot camp until the point where she was able to hold her own, and now she has a manager, she has the acting bug, she's moving forward. There's always, so I like to say, there's the seasoned actors, they're the first timers, and then they're the non-professionals. And they're non-professionals are those people that we just pull from the moment. Like either some of the residents at the motels, we were like, would you like to act in this scene? And do whatever you want, or be a version of yourself. And that's a one-off. That they will be acting that day and perhaps never acting again. But yeah, I had plenty of first-timers in the film, and I was very lucky that I found first-timers who were able to, again, comedically improvise if I wanted them to. I've been very lucky that way.
What Instagram tags does one search to end up with a lead actress in your film?
Yeah. I honestly don't know how I found her, and I wasn't looking for. I was open to the idea of casting from social media because my previous film, Tangerine, I cast a few supporting roles off of Vine and YouTube. But in this case, I think it was literally somebody just reposting one of her posts and then being inspired by her, meaning there were characteristics in her that I saw in Halley. This youthful energy, her physicality with these tattoos, the fact that she was making me laugh. She was very funny, and we could have cast this role with. Actually, to tell you the truth, we were going down that road. We were going down that road of casting like a young pop star or a very well-known Hollywood actress for that role. But the character, for me, was going through so much in her struggles that I knew it might take the audience out of it, and I couldn't run that risk. And plus, on top of that, Bria was just there was something about her. I kept going back to her Instagram saying, well, we're never going to get the freshness of this young woman. And so eventually we just said, well, why don't we just bring her down to Orlando and have her read? My financiers, June Pictures, who also produced the film, they were just, I know they were probably rolling their eyes when I asked them to do it, but they trusted me. And it all ended up working out. And she was holding her own with Willem Dafoe. It was crazy. Yeah. I'm so proud of her.
Which character do you relate to the most, and what do you admire about them?
Oh, wow. I relate to the kids. That's the thing, because that's the one thing you asked me earlier about, like, entering a world I didn't know. But we are also working with very universal themes here. The theme, everybody has had a childhood. So that was easier for me this time because we were able to actually pull a lot from our own childhood. I mean, the fact that, you know, we have these kids doing mischievous things and sometimes being a little naughty. I mean, that comes from my life. When that first scene, the scene in which they're spitting down onto a car, and at first you think it's terrible and mean-spirited, but then you realize it's just kids being kids, and within 5 minutes they've made up with the new girl who comes into the motel, and they're best friends already. That happened in my life. A very similar thing happened. So these things are pulled from, I think I can actually, it sounds crazy, but I can identify mostly with the kids.
Do you have a favorite ride at Disneyland or Disney World?
I remember way back, what was the American Airlines thing? It's a Small World or something? Small?
Yeah. That I didn't know it was sponsored by them.
I wish they didn't change that. I wish they didn't change it, because actually I love the old school version of it. That was so, you know.
What is your least favorite ride at Disney?
I don't really know it.
Disney is such a weird, like that, those whole like neighborhoods are such weird subcultures, and obviously you explore them, but like.
Yeah, but if you talk to my co-screenwriter, this would literally be like a 4-hour radio program, because he knows Disney in and out. And this is one of the reasons that this topic even came to my attention, because he is so, he's such a fanatic and knows every single detail. There's a lot of hidden stuff in the film too, little winks to the mythology of Disney. So you have to interview him sometime.
Send him my way.
Yeah.
And my last question is, well, I already know the answer to this one probably. I was going to say, who's your favorite childhood hero or heroine, but it sounds like Little Rascals take the cake.
The Spanky McFarlane, I always consider him to be like just the pinnacle, like the zenith of what you could like achieve with child performances. And I said very early on, I said, we're not going to move forward, so everybody is going to have to be prepared for the production to stop unless we find the present day Spanky McFarlane. And then one day, Brooklynn Prince walks into our audition room, and she has the wit, the energy, the cuteness, even the puffy little cheeks, and she just blew us away within seconds. And I'm just like, wow, she's there. She's the one we were looking for all along.
What's one thing you wish you had more time for?
You mean during the production?
No, just in your life.
Oh, just life.
Yeah.
Just in general. No, meaning
Oh,
life.
Sure.
I mean, this is me. It's so weird because when you're younger, I can't remember. I look back at my earlier years and I remember being bored. And now I don't even have time to be bored, because it's like there's just no time to do anything anymore. I don't understand. I wish I could. Okay, right now, to answer your question, I wish I could see films again, because I'm on a press tour, and the last 3 weeks I haven't seen one film, and I've been going to these wonderful film festivals. I went to Cannes, I went to Toronto, I went to New York Film Festival, and guess what? I didn't see one film because we're too busy. And you know what that does to a cinephile? It tears your heart out. You're like, the best films in the world, I can't even see them. So it's that's torture. And then also, I got to get back to the gym. I'm falling apart here.
Well, thank you so much. Congrats on the film. I hope you have time to go see it.